I'm bored. Even got coffee. Just got on board the boat. Really the first time on the mooring since we put it on the mooring this season. It's 8:25 in the morning, and the idea of me being on here is just to do some stuff that needs to be done. Hopefully get the boat off the mooring and poodle it up and down the river a little bit. That would be nice. Check the engine. We were still having a couple of issues with the water intake, which I can go through. Also, I'll do a vlog on some basics of boat terminology. I mean, I'm not massively a stickler for it. However, obviously, I remember when I first started getting interested in sailing, watching YouTube videos on sailing, and sometimes the terminology being quite confusing. So I will literally walk around the boat and just name everything, and give you a few hints and tips about that kind of thing. Just turn the radio down a bit. Most of the day it's been pouring with rain. Looked lovely and sunny this morning, however things change, and I've just did loads of cleaning and clearing up. Cleaned the bilges, I cleaned the toilet, I cleaned the oven, all that kind of thing. But mostly I've just been after that just been chilling out on the boat, because it's nice, all the movement of the boat and so on and so on. Tends to be really calming and peaceful. So I'll show you what it's like outside. Morning. Well, it's morning to me at the moment. So we're rocking around a little bit because I'm moving with the boat. You probably can't tell that. It's very hard to to show you that. So yeah, stayed on the boat because I was clearing up and sorting a few things out. Made a really silly mistake. Left some stuff on overnight, and so the battery's dead. Yeah. So the information that I want to give you while on board the boat is generally, hopefully, reasonably sort of straightforward stuff. I will do blogs where it's going to be more complicated, and go through maintenance of various different types and things like that, and try and keep it sort of user friendly as such. But also I want to do just stuff, interesting stuff that's about boats and things like that. Things, just facts and information that's worth knowing. Hopefully. It might be worth going through some of the essential things that I have on the boat. Why not? Okay, so here, this is a fish finder. Although I'm not a great fisherman, it does always give me my depth, so how much water we've got underneath the boat, which is very useful because you don't want to go aground. I carry a Garmin, it's like a sat nav basically. It's not a chart plotter. I'd love a chart plotter, but they're really expensive. But this will allow me to do some navigation electronically, in a sense. All this section out here, and in there is all my charts. So we know where we are, we know what's going on. It's like a map for a boat. You should have appropriate charts for where you are and where you want to go, and they should be accurate. So it's safe, and you should know how to use those charts and how to read those charts. So it's important. Some kind of ship to shore radio, I would say, is a reasonable necessity. So you should be able to, if nothing else, make emergency calls and so on and so on. And you should obviously have one which is working, and B, know how to use it. Ship's log. Very Captain Kirk, but yeah, you should have some kind of log as to. So I'm sitting here. So on my chart table, which comes out, I have a log of information basically, and it's a good idea if you are the captain, or you know, you're responsible for a vessel, that you keep a log. Here we have the log. So basically, when you are on a boat, you should keep basically like a diary of where you are and what you're doing. So the minimum amount of information you should have on there is the boat details, who's on board, and basically an itinerary of what you're doing. Also a idea of what the weather's doing as well. So it's good to have like wind information, general weather information, sea state. So what state the sea is at. That means, is it rough? Is it smooth? That kind of thing. So there's a forecast, a maritime forecast. So it's specifically for at sea, and it covers various areas. And so you look at what area you're in, and the area you're traveling to, and then get a idea of what the weather's going to be like and what the sea's going to be like, and make a note of it and bear it in mind when you are navigating to those areas. British Isles are split into 30 different forecast areas, and you get that information from the shipping forecast. You listen out for your area. So, and that's broadcast on 2 frequencies 4 times a day. Now, shall I go through all of the areas? That's the question. I don't know whether this is getting you or not. So you go Viking, north at 0, south at 0, Forties, Cromarty, Forth, Tyne, Dogger, Fisher, German Light, Humber, Thames, Dover, White, Portland, Plymouth, Biscay, Finisterre, Seoul, Lundy, Fastnet, Irish Sea, Shannon, Rockall, Malin, Hebrides, Bailey, Fair Isle, Faroes, and Southeast Iceland. Firefighting equipment of one description or another. On board here is gas, because I've got gas bottles for the cooking. So I have a couple of extinguishers, and to hand I have fire blanket. First aid. I must have about 4 first aid kits on board, I reckon. Every now and again I get some more first aid stuff, so yeah, so always a necessity to have on board. Bear in mind that obviously it's going to take you a little while probably to get any help, even if you are near somewhere. It still takes a while to organise. So yeah, simple first aid kit, and maybe a few extra bits as well that might be applicable. Maritime fact number 1. I'll try and put a few interesting facts. I mean, we are an island nation, so the sea has been a huge part of our history, and you may or may not know loads and loads of our general words, the words that we use for things, also like sayings, little sayings, come from maritime, the navy, and time at sea. So for example, born with a silver spoon in your mouth, yeah, quite a reasonably common phrase. That's a maritime phrase, and it came from captains that had got through to their captain ship without doing the exams. Yeah, so if you were if you got there on merit, you would have got through with a wooden spoon. That's what they said. And if you had got through without doing the exams, through who you were rather than what you knew, you were said to have got through with a silver spoon. Buoyancy aids and life jackets. So grab in here. This is a buoyancy aid. This is a life jacket. There's lots of different thoughts and feelings about such things. When I'm generally moving about the boat, etc., etc., I don't tend to wear one. I mean, I'm moored here, so yeah, so I tend to do that. But if it starts getting rougher, or I'm moving about the boat and it's rougher, and so on, then obviously I'm putting one on. If I'm going sort of further afield, then I put one on. If I'm in the tender, then I put one on. So generally, I would suggest if you're on board, then it's a good idea to have a life jacket on. The life jacket is different to a buoyancy aid. This area here, so you can see me. So this area here is what we would call the kitchen. What we call it when we're on the boat is the galley. There's a cooker. Can you see it? Yes. So that's got 2 gas hobs, oven, grill. So yeah, you can cook up a meal with no worries at all. I have water, So I've got 2 water tanks on board. I use white vinegar. So I'm just pouring out a cup of coffee. Yeah, so I stick a bit of white vinegar in there, and that kind of keeps the water pretty fresh. But I don't use it for drinking. Generally, I bring fresh water on board for drinking and that kind of thing. The other water gets used for washing hands, washing up, that stuff. Plates and what this is quite the dishes, plates, etc. that I use are the old-fashioned metal ones because they don't break. Yeah, so that's pretty handy. Pots and pans, all that kind of thing, cutlery, etc. When you open drawers on boats, often you go to open a drawer and it won't open. Yeah, so there's various ways and means in which they try and keep things closed and secured, because obviously if you're rolling around you don't want drawers flying open. So these ones you have to slightly lift them and then they'll come out. Often the cookers are on what's known as a gimbal. Weirdly enough, this one isn't. However, there's these apparatus here, so you can actually literally attach your pots and stuff to the actual cooker. But a gimbal allows movement, so as the boat moves, the thing will retain its level, which is pretty cool. Don't know why they didn't put it on a gimbal, but they didn't. So I've just made my cup of coffee. Maritime fact number 2. Fun fact number 2. Because I use this myself, I use this phrase, crack on. Yeah, let's crack on. I use it all the time. So that actually has a maritime history. So what it would be the sails would be at the fullest point of their and fullest point with no reef, so the biggest sail that they could have, and it would be full of wind. When this was occurring, the ropes and everything else would make a cracking sound, and this was known as cracking on. There we go. One other thing to show you in the kitchen area, the galley is that lifts up and in there is a sink, so that's cool. Another bit of terminology, toilet. There is a toilet on board in here. There we are. Can you see it? Okay, so often the toilet is a pretty confined space to do what you need to do. It's not a good idea to be flushing toilet paper because it depends what sort of toilet you've got, but it does tend to clog up, and cleaning the toilet out is not a fun job basically. But here in here, so okay, I don't know how we're going to do this. Right, so there is a pump. Yeah, so at the end of the day what occurs is you flush your toilet by pumping the pump, and it goes straight out to the sea. Nice. There's also in there a sink and stuff, so you've got everything that you need basically. Toilet on board, it's called the heads. So in the head, I normally keep all wet weather gear as well, because then you have somewhere where all the wet stuff goes. If you've ever told your kids to pipe down, thank the Navy for that one. It was a routine order, Navy order, at lights out, or to get the crew to be quiet. Just to pipe down. So we'll take a wander outside, but I reckon it's going to be too windy for you to hear anything. But what I will do is I'll attempt it. If not, it'll be a voiceover. So this flag here is known as an ensign, and basically it's the red ensign is the pretty standard sign that you'll see, and I need to fly it because I'm on board. So basically what you should do is put that flag out if you're on board your boat, and you really should take it in at dusk and put it back up at dawn. That's what you should be doing. If you see a blue one, so instead of the red colour it will be blue, that boat or ship is allowed to sail that because it has Navy connections, so they're allowed to do that. I do not have Navy connections. So the sides of the boat, what side you're on is not a left side or a right side. It is described as port and starboard. Port being the left side and starboard being the right side. They also have a colour associated with those sides. Port is red and starboard is green. Easy way to remember. Is there any port left? I.e. the drink. So port is red, port is left, so is there any port left? Is a quick and easy way of remembering. So the buoys that are in the water, or markers in the water, may be coloured red or green, and that will determine which side you should pass those on. You'll have lights on the boat, and you'll see lights on boats, and also that will show you which side you can see from a distance, often which direction that boat is going and so on. Yeah, so you can tell a lot of information in regard to those lights. Another fun nautical fact. So we've all used the word posh. I certainly wouldn't describe me as posh, and we all kind of know what it means, but where does that come from? Well, it's a nautical term, weirdly enough. Well, it came out of nautical terms. So when passengers used to, years ago in England, used to get the ferries back and forth from P&O, like in the old days, they would put their requirements down as what cabin they wanted, because you would get more sun on your outward departure and return, depending on what side of the boat that you were on. So it would be port out and starboard home. So you would start getting those signs hanging from outside people's cabins. Port home, starboard. Sorry, port out, starboard home, posh. So that's where that comes from. So here we are at the back of the boat. Basically, this is where the steering occurs, etc. on my boat I don't have a wheel, I have a tiller. Which at the moment you can see tied it so it's not moving around. Back of the boat, I bet you can't hear me because the wind is so bad, or whatever the case may be. The back of the boat is referred to as the stern of the boat, and the front being the bow. So, yeah. So I'm now standing right on the bow of the boat, looking out. It's a lovely day, just very windy. Here we have, right, you'll find lots of these, and lots of these, so you find lots of these and lots of these. Generally we associate this, the word rope, but on a boat, it'll be different. So often they're known as sheets or lines, depending on where they are on the boat and what their job on that boat is. You also get behind me. You'll see the metal cables that hold up the mast. You have running rigging, which is the ropes that have various jobs in the boat as well. So to get from your boat to land, potentially, or to get from the land to your boat, you may have a smaller boat. Or a dinghy. So this is referred to as a tender. You will attach your tender to your boat. Right, again, this rope has a name. This will be called the putt. Your tender, this one is my tender. So hopefully you'll be able to hear me here. Your tender, or otherwise known as a dinghy. Dinghy from the Hindi, dinghy, which means small boat. Winches. So there's lots of different types of winches, but generally winches are used for one thing, and that's tightening up a rope. So being able to tighten that rope. Just worried about the wind. If I come down here, maybe it'll be less windy. Being able to tighten that rope up more than you would just by physical force. So I'll give you an example of old style winch. Here we have an old style winch. So the rope is around the winch, and then you'll use a handle to be able to tighten that up. This one is an old, very old winch, and it goes into the side. So another thing that you'll often find, well, you'll definitely find on a boat, and also even on a quay, as you go into onto a port, or if you go into a port, or if you are going into a marina, are cleats. And here we have so that's an example, three cleats there, and basically what these are for is to make a rope fast. So we would attach a rope to a cleat to make it fast. There is lots and lots of different types of cleat. They come in all different shapes and sizes, but basically they are there so that you can attach a rope to them easily and quickly. So us nautical types, us sailing types, are obviously eloquent and watch what we say, or do we? The reason for this is because watching our P's and Q's, you may have heard of that. Watching our P's and Q's is actually a nautical term. It has nautical history. So when sailors used to get into a port, get into a harbour, they would of course make their way straight to a tavern or an inn. There they would be served pints and quarts of beer, probably rum and whatever else as well. So the bartender or the innkeeper would obviously tally these up, and he would make a mark for each pint and quart that was drunk. And once those sailors were pretty drunk, it was very easy for them to add a tick for a pint or a quart when actually it hadn't been drunk. So it was a good idea for those sailors to watch their P's and their Q's, so they didn't get done out of their hard-earned money. So if you are at the back of the boat, as I am here, you are said to be aft. And it's basically because you're after the mast. If you move to it probably is too windy for me to do this, but we'll try anyway. If you move to the middle of the boat, where I am now is known as midships. So you are here. If you move forward, you are moving forward. You are moving forward. Tip, if you can hear me, if you're getting on and off a boat, if you have the opportunity, then try and get on and off the boat midships. So go to the middle of the boat, because there's plenty more rigging to hold on to, so it's safe. So as you might be able to hear, I just started the engine. I did have a dead battery, or even in fact 2 dead batteries, but what I did was, batteries are here. So I had a spare battery, and some jump leads. So the battery's on, running quite high at the moment. I want to charge up my batteries. So it is. So that's the engine running. So something that you need to check is the fact that there's water coming out of the back. So the engine is sucking up that raw water and using it to cool down the engine. Sort of raw water cooling system. So yeah, happy, engines on the go. I'll leave it running for a while, bring it down a little bit so it's not so noisy, and then after a while stop it and then see if it'll start again. Fun fact. I feel a little bit like Sheldon. If you ever watch Big Bang Theory, I feel like I'm like fun with flags, fun facts. That's just me. Hats. Really useful on board, to be fair. The sun can often not seem so strong because you've got wind and so on and so on, and so it's very, very easy to get sunburn on a boat. In fact, the only one time I've ever had sunstroke, well, it definitely was sunstroke, was on a boat. Really easy. So wear a hat. So the phrase "to eat your hat," I'll eat my hat. Yeah, old-fashioned phrase, I guess. Very old-fashioned because it's connected to sailors. So allegedly, sailors used to keep their tobacco in the brim of their hat, and as this got wet and horrible, it'll be their chewing tobacco, and as it got wet and horrible, and they run out of tobacco, what they do is take that lining out. Yep, so it makes you do some straight circles. So I've let the engine run for about an hour. The water intake seems to be pretty good. We were having an issue, and even after 45 minutes it seemed to struggle, but that seems to be okay with our little fix. And the weather has slightly changed. It's now not as sunny. Yeah, clouded over basically. But anyhow, what I want to do is just stop the engine, give it a second, and then see if the battery will restart the engine. When I stop the engine, what will happen is there'll be a high-pitched alarm that goes off, and that's basically obviously to let me know that the engine's stopped and potentially there's no water go through it, etc., etc. So it's a good thing. Let's have a go. So I can stop that alarm by turning the switch off, and that will stop. And when I go to start it, that alarm will come back on, and then hopefully our battery will have enough power in it to start our engine. Let's give it a go. Sounded pretty good.